we are here today to have a chat with Indre from Trafi. They recently made a very loud and very good announcement of them becoming net zero. And Indre has been the person to lead the company through this journey. So that is exactly the reason why she's here, to tell us more about what the journey actually looked like, and what were the challenges and successes along the way. But Indre, can you please do a quick introduction to what you have been up to and what is Trafi, the company that you're working for?
Sure. Well, first of all, Kristine, thanks so much for having us. Thanks for noticing Trafi's performance on the journey to net zero. And yeah, thanks for having this initiative in general. I think sharing those experiences are so important because we don't have that many examples yet, and I guess we'll go a bit more into details later on of what kind of examples are lacking the most. But yeah, thanks so much for having us. And well, Trafi is the largest mobility as a service technology company currently. It's pretty techy, it's pretty detailed on what we do. I won't go that much into details today, I guess, but basically it's a technology to give cities and companies the holistic approach to mobility and to enable the orchestration of mobility as a service. So basically a master key to all shared mobility of a city. And all this is with the goal to reduce the number of private cars in the streets. And I guess sustainable mobility is a whole separate topic that we could discuss for hours. But well, from our point of view and from the data that we see around, is not about the kind of a car where the problem from transport is created, and by the way, transport is in charge of a quarter of total greenhouse gas emissions worldwide. So it's a huge area to tackle and to improve. And the problem is a private car, so not, and even changing the fleet to electric or to more sustainable automobiles, it's not reducing the problem that much. So we are working on technology to give people access to shared mobility services in order to reduce the need for private cars. And we are maybe just to add, to make it a bit easier to understand, we are doing it with cities. So, for example, city of Prague is running on our technology, or a city of Berlin. Maybe that's actually still, as of today, the biggest deployment in terms of cities. Then, like 3 different cities in Switzerland are running on our tech, some cities in Latin America, and so on and so forth. But also we've recently launched another new product which is dedicated to companies. So basically a corporate employer would give the access to a mobility budget to its employees instead of giving a company car. So that's also an innovation that we see happening quite a lot in the world, or actually with the new announcements of the companies aiming to reduce their emissions, they're changing the commute of their employees, and those mobility budgets, mobility allowances is an alternative to corporate car.
Very, very cool. And it's so interesting to see that a startup, last time I checked, it looked like you're like 110 employees, at least according to LinkedIn, that you are not only working on a technology solution that is making the world more sustainable, but you're taking it to the next level and also committing to becoming a net zero company. And doing other things, not only that. So can you explain a little bit more about what is the business reasoning for you to actually invest time and energy in such a complex project?
Sure. Well, to be honest, it wasn't this year that we started our journey to sustainability. I think, I've joined Trafi 3 years ago, and since then it was already a lot of things done internally that other companies are not doing yet or just starting to do recently based on the trend of sustainability. So, for example, sustainable commuting of our employees, social activities of employees, and kind of volunteering that has always been the practice that's been encouraged at Trafi. We just haven't kind of calculated and materialized it. And we wanted basically to get the numbers and to know what's our footprint versus our impact. So that was, well, I would say the first reason was just, well, curiosity and basically the demand from our own employees, demand from our leadership, just to know where we stand in this problem and solution of sustainability and what is actually the footprint we are leaving as a company. Then also, well, the moral engagement, sort of like it sounds weird to be selling a sustainable product to our customers, but not to have done the homework ourselves. So for sure, that was also another reason. And also, we just wanted to get a bit more into details of some particular areas of sustainability accountancy, so such as commuting. We know, well, and again, we'll talk about it, I guess, a bit more in a moment, but Scope 3 emissions are not required to be reported from the companies, and commuting falls under the Scope 3 emissions. And our solution is basically improving and solving the commuting issue, which companies don't calculate yet. So we wanted to get into very detail of what it takes to calculate all your emissions, including the commuting and Scope 3, which is not required, and also in the process, in the difficulties that companies face, and then in the potential solutions.
Yeah, and I think that is why the announcement that you have become a climate neutral or net zero company is why this announcement really stood out. Another interesting part of it is that you're not really required to do it. No one really is demanding that at the moment, but in the future they might. So that is why it really stood out from the general landscape. But maybe you can explain a little bit more in the detail, like what exactly climate neutral and this net zero and all of this means, and what are the differences between these?
Yeah, the difference is really important. At least it was for us. So, well, when we started the journey and saying that we want to become a sustainable company and we want to have those, kind of official claims that we are doing that, our goal has never been the branding. It has never been the offsets, neither what is done often by the companies. We basically wanted to, first of all, have a very clear idea of what our footprint is, so to measure it and to understand where we stand, and then to reduce it. So basically measure in order to reduce it to zero. That has been the goal, and that's where we stand still today. But basically, after we calculated our emissions, it became sort of clear that there are not that many areas for reduction that digital companies, and especially SMEs, small startups being digital companies, can tackle in order to reduce it. And it's not about the lack of willingness to do so. It's about the lack of guidance and the regulation to do so. So basically, the company that is claiming that they are climate neutral, as we are, it means that our emissions are removed to zero, and everything that we left behind of our performance last year, because it was done for 2020. So everything that we polluted, we then removed from the air, and we neutralized our activity. So all our total emissions are being removed or offset, and that's climate neutral meaning. Net zero is a strategy which means that all the emissions were reduced towards zero, and only a little part that could not be reduced is being offset or removed. And that's a difference. So kind of summing up to where I started, our goal has always been to become net zero. Turns out it's not so easy, and for startups and digital companies, there is no clear guidance of how you can reduce. And some examples could be, for example, moving your data centers from your own data centers to the cloud, which we are already doing, or moving to digital first in order not to have the commute or travel less, which we are doing already. So a lot of kind of things or activities that would be advised to the companies to do, we are doing that already. So kind of removing the remaining part is sort of the only way. But there is no clear kind of policy to capture that and to capture the activity that has been done already in the past before announcing the neutrality. Therefore, we are saying now, just to be safe, we are saying that we are climate neutral, but actually we are doing all the actions that companies that are going to net zero are setting up.
I also wanted to bring up the fact that you're not only committed and are climate neutral, but you also are doing other things, social governance. It's not just about the carbon footprint for you. Can you explain a little bit more how does it all come together, and what is the bigger picture that you are moving towards?
Exactly. Trafi sustainability has never been only about the environment. Obviously, it's very important, but other areas or other two letters of ESG strategy are as important to us. So socially, from the company's perspective, as I mentioned before, we've been doing already quite a lot of activities before setting up the official sustainability targets, such as volunteering of our own employees, or basically working on improving the well-being of employees, which is also kind of under the requirements for social improvements of the company. And now with the journey to sustainability, we kind of we built a more holistic strategy for that. So if in terms of environment, we are offsetting what's remaining, but also we are doing stuff to move the office buildings to sustainable energy, to reduce even more the commuting of our employees, to encourage digital work, to give allowances for shared commuting, and what we are doing with our products. So that's kind of on the reduction goals on the environmental side. Then socially, we set ourselves a few goals. So first of all, it's a well-being of our own employees, and that's what has been started already before, but basically training on the mental health, the mental support, the balance of work-life balance and such activities. Those were there already. Additionally, we wanted to scale it and to share the best practices of our employees and of tech people. So we are kind of going into two streams. So we are supporting the educational activities for tech people and basically tech education in Lithuania. And second stream is sort of tech volunteering. So basically some of our employees are donating work time, and that's not a personal time, and that's again where I'd like to highlight the difference, because there are a lot of companies that are demanding from their employees to do something themselves, but kind of not giving away the business hours. So we are encouraging our employees to during the work to dedicate some hours to do a coding and the tech work for some of the sustainable projects and NGOs. So basically we have now currently the agreements. We actually are still talking to a few initiatives, and to a few we've dealt already. So basically any NGOs that would need some kind of tech support, such as improving the website, developing an app, setting up a calculation for some data analysis and so on, our experts can donate their time to support the NGOs.
That's great, and I think more companies really step up, especially in that last part. It's a great opportunity to just use the internal resources to do something good for the communities around. You didn't really mention, are you tracking, for example, men versus women in the management team, or what is the salary level differences between each gender. Is this something also that you are looking into or maybe planning to do in the future?
Yeah, we are doing that. So actually not in the future, rather in the past. Again, with before setting up the goals, those things we were doing already. So in terms of salary range, we've been doing that for years, and we are already, I would say, higher than a lot of companies are aiming to become. So like, if other companies would set up that as a goal, again, in our case, it has been equalized already. Then in terms of gender equality on the leadership board, I have to admit we are not equal yet, but we are working on that, and that's one of our efforts. And therefore, we actually have the goal of education, because it's not about the lack of having the equal rate of male versus female. It's just still very hard to find qualitative female employees, and especially for some particular tech positions. In general, recruiting is a pretty tough problem now. Well, I guess worldwide. In the Baltics, I'm sure you've also heard a lot about that issue. But basically, finding talents is tough, and having also the selection of men versus female is even harder. So we are working on, while we are really proactively trying to get more female employees, and in general kind of the equality in the company is there, but not that much in the leadership. But we are working on that, and also trying to improve that with supporting the education system.
Yeah, thank you for sharing it quite transparently. And I think it's already way more than many other companies are doing. So just congrats on that, and best of luck with the journey. But speaking of the challenges, definitely last part was already touching upon some, but maybe you can share more on the challenges that you were facing when you were on your journey to becoming climate neutral.
Yeah, for sure, and there were quite some. So, kind of a mantra for us, or well, for anyone on the journey to sustainability is calculate, reduce, and offset, right? And calculation part is sometimes, well, actually, usually the longest one, maybe, especially for companies who are doing that for the first time. So. I would say the first challenge was to understand really what is what in the market, and we knew that we won't have a big internal team to do all the data collections, calculations, and so on. So basically, we started with market analysis of what is there, what are the solutions we have. Now we all see a lot of solutions, a lot of new companies, mushrooming every day, and suggesting new some kind of sustainability services. So first of all, really sort of scanning through that and understanding who is doing what, and what is really a scalable, valuable solution, and what is rather a greenwashing. That was quite a tough challenge. And again, especially for companies doing that for a first time, to evaluate all the services of calculating, offsetting, and so on. So there are zillion of companies who would tell you that they help you to calculate your emissions. Now, are they looking into your scope 3? Are they looking into your use of service? Are they looking into social factors as well? Those you just have to basically find your own way, do a bunch of interviews with each company, and really to select the best partner. So that was something that took us quite some time, to be honest. And then at the end of the day, we decided to work with the South Pole, which is kind of, I would say, a big four, the big four type of company in terms of sustainability accountancy. They are Swiss, and they've been into sustainability game for years. So it's, on one hand, we wanted to support the company which is maybe closer to us in terms of being a startup themselves, and maybe understanding better the flexibility and the difference of startups. But on the other hand, we haven't found a startup partner who would be qualified enough with all the questions, like the specific questions that we had, such as, again, scope-free emissions, digital emissions, commuting emissions, and therefore we worked with the established partners such as South Pole. So yeah, basically the partner selection was the first challenge. And then data collection, so that's another one, and I'm sure any company who had done this step already, they know how tricky the process can be. So if collecting a scope 1 and scope 2 data, kind of, your direct usage of what you are purchasing, what you are consuming from the office administration and so on, those are okay. It takes time to collect that data, and again, like if you are renting your office from the bigger office buildings, it's not always there, not all the metrics are there being given to you by your landlord, but it's possible to get those. Now, when it gets into scope-free data, it's a whole different game. It's really, really complicated, and it's to me in the beginning, the biggest shocker was that the companies that are talking a lot about their sustainability actions, such as Google or Amazon, for their own clients, they're actually not giving any support to move towards more sustainable actions, or even the transparency about the data we are consuming, or what the amounts of data represent in terms of emissions, or what kind of data that are placed, or like that are placed in their cloud services. What part of that is green energy, what part is maybe are planned to being improved. Really, basically anything that it goes towards digital data is it's a dark forest.
Yeah, I've heard that from quite a few companies, and getting data that actually is not just an assumption, but to somewhat realistic and specific is really one of the top challenges for anyone on this journey. We have a couple of more minutes left, so I wanted to wrap up with on a positive note and ask you for your ideas or suggestions for other startups and tech companies. What do you think other companies can actually do? What is realistic? What, from your experience, is the easiest thing to do?
Yeah, well, I guess first of all, start calculating, start getting into that game, whether you are demanded or not. So I think, well, actually, my sincere advice would be for any company, big or small, to start going into exercise of calculating their emissions, because I honestly believe that soon, and very soon, all the companies are going to be demanded to do it one way or another, whether from their clients, whether from shareholders, or by the regulations. We all will have to do that. So it's better to start doing your homework before you're required, and not having the surprise and not having a clue of where to start when you have to have the results already. So start going into exercise, and then talk about it. So share your experiences, especially again for those companies who are sort of falling out of the guideline, and who are not have the factories or a very tangible scope 1, scope 2 emissions. So startups, digital companies, SMEs, talk about it, share your experience, share your struggles, share the challenges, and only by this way we can also encourage other companies such as Google's, Amazon's of the world to support us, to support digital companies to have better transparency, better accountancy on their digital sustainability. So yeah, get into the game, understand what it takes, understand what are your challenges, and then talk about it. Share the experience, share the struggle, in order to have it to make it a massive movement.
Yeah, and I think Trafi is definitely one of the companies who are on this journey already. And as you are doing just now, you are sharing your lessons learned from the road. So thank you a ton for that. Thank you for your time, Indre. And I look forward to the next session.
Yeah, thanks so much. And really, for anyone who's going to be watching us later, I encourage to, again, talk about it. Don't hesitate to reach out to me, or just really, share the examples that you see around, especially from a part of digital companies, because that's really where we are lacking examples a lot. And the process is pretty different from the usual corporates. So really, let's, whether you spot a successful or actually not such a successful example, please share it, talk about it, and it's really interesting to get some examples out there.
Exactly. All right. Thank you so much, and have a nice rest of the day.